What brings us here today and what can we expect? 75%. If you rewind about 20 years ago, a company's value was about 80% intangible assets. It was factories, it was machinery, it was so on and so forth. Today, they basically say about 75% of a company's assets is its brand. So think about that. Ernst & Young did a survey of CFOs and CEOs, and 68% responded with legal and regulatory challenges as the #1 issue that their companies face. So the #1 issue, not competition, not the economy, it's legal and regulatory challenges.
What I wanted to do was to start off by just asking a basic question, which is, what is ethics to people? And it's interesting, when you get into a discussion with people in the classroom about this, it means different things to different people depending upon where you are in the world. So I'm going to give you a very brief overview of ethics, and this grows out of some of the work that I did for my book on a chapter on ethics. The second thing that I want to do is talk about trust and building trust. And as Susan alluded to, I mean, trust is at an all-time low. I'm going to give you some of the statistics that are out there around trust. And there's nothing more important than trying to think about having trust if you want to have people think about you as an ethical company or to be a responsible citizen of the world.
Communications people, in my experience, are never the ones with an ethical problem. When's the last time the press secretary was involved in a scandal? You basically end up having to clean up everybody else's scandal.
As a senior leader, you may not hear things directly, you may not know what's going on, but I was actually involved in my prior life with a, I won't call it crisis, but something that was going on in the public that was causing a lot of issues. The biggest turnaround for us was when we started listening to what the public was saying on social media and stopped talking our message and started responding to their questions.
You have this whole large group of employees, and they're going to be on social media. You can't prevent them. You can't say it's absolutely forbidden. There are all kinds of issues around that. So you need to really be engaged in communicating with your employees about how you expect them to behave on social media. I don't think you can prohibit it, and therefore, by definition, you are in social media.
Communicator, my job is to ensure that, no, you can disclose that. You can disclose this, 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 and this, and you should. We try to live by our mantra is maximum disclosure, minimum delay.
First of all, as we heard repeatedly today, Aristotle was completely right. Ethics is really nothing more than practice good behavior. And you learn to be good by doing the good, and then by reflecting on it. And I think taking a dilemma like that to experienced individuals and having them think through the complexity of how you serve the values, because we never come to a situation with a value, except for the finance people. We have values. How do you serve the values that ought to be served in that situation while producing the fewest number of negative consequences?
Communications today requires courage, and I do think it's a driver of that connectivity. And then the last point, which is just something that I say quite often, which comes from our work on the topic on trust. We're in such a fundamentally different place and time in what we do, and we talked about the operational achievement kind of being the driver to up until 5, maybe 10 years ago. I kind of summarize that for clients and say, what you do matters, but how you do that matters more. And so I think the transparency that's been forced on enterprises today requires just some courageous conversations and kind of a different way of not just thinking, but of behaving.
3 really key trends I could hear were boy, trust is at an all-time low. I was very disappointed to hear that 90% of the people in the Edelman Trust Barometer did not trust corporations. That just talks about how much work we have. Sort of piggybacking on, you know, what Ben had said, is that it really is incumbent on us to lead these conversations and make sure that we're having a lot of dialogues, and especially across the countries, because another theme that I heard was that ethics can be defined very differently in different cultures, and we need to get to a point as a corporation that's multinational of understanding those cultural differences and how they're going to impact people's business decisions.
There's nothing more fulfilling than having your organization being named as the world's most ethical company. The reality is that any other awards, whether it's Best Legal Department or Best Communications Department, it will always run a distant second to being the world's most ethical. I think that all of us across the C-suite are in the midst of what I would call a truly defining time. Roger and Gary just talked about it. We all share in owning that corporate character. So we have a responsibility to lead the way and an opportunity to transcend the implied limitations of our job descriptions. And it's a responsibility that's very much interdependent.